podcaster, reporter, and host, pop culture and true crime expert. Those are just a few of the titles of my fellow and fabulous New Yorker, Lauren Conlin. I've been waiting a long time to have her on. Lauren hosts Prime Time Crime, the Outlier Podcast. She's an in-demand and sought-after guest on any show that has to do with crime and pop. She does it all. PopCrime TV is the place to be for all things crime, because crime and pop all the time with Lauren Conlin. You can follow Lauren on X. I like to still call it Twitter. And that is Conlin_Lauren. YouTube, PopCrime TV, and Primetime Crime. She's also Primetime Crime on Instagram. I'm going to have all of this, Lauren, in the body of the video, so everybody can follow you, harass you, get on board with you, everything. And the website, most important, PopCrime.TV. Welcome, Lauren, to the Warriors.
Thank you so much. That was such a nice introduction, Lynn. I'm honestly so honored to be here. I can't even tell you. I'm such a fan of you.
Now, listen, just stop that, young lady. Now, listen, I want to hear all about you. You know, you're one of those people. No, you're one of those people. When I see you, I get happy. And it's infectious. And that's what we want to do. We want to, in the midst of crime, pop crime, we want to have a little bit of levity where appropriate, kind of thing. So that's why I'm like so happy to have you on today. You have such great delivery and you really get to it. Before we start and jump in, I want to know a little bit of something about you. Like whatever you want to tell us about you from your childhood to now, like how did you end up in all this crime and pop? And
well, Lynn, I want to say thank you for just appreciating me, I guess, and my personality. I know sometimes it's not for everybody. One of the big criticisms that I always get is my delivery and that it's not super standard. I mean, people need to get a little bit more original besides like the Valley Girl thing. I'm kind of like, I'm from New Hampshire. I'm not really from the Valley, but I recognize that I'm not your cookie cutter crime person, I guess. But I just
that's why I love you. That's why I love you, because I'm not a cookie cutter either.
Yeah, no, totally. And I love that about you as well. But I do just want to say I appreciate another female just being kind. It's hard to come by these days. But I did start off in entertainment. I was a theater major in college, musical theater, obviously moved to New York City, had this big dream like everybody else. And then I always had a knack for news, especially entertainment and crime. So in college, while I was doing musical theater, I was interning at CBS and Fox, the local affiliates. I graduated and it was tough. Going on auditions were really tough. And then with news, they were like, great, you can work from 3 a.m. to 12 a.m. and make $13 an hour. And I was like, no, thank you. This is really tough. So I actually ended up going into digital marketing for about 10 years, which is where I met my husband. And then it wasn't until 2018, after I had my second child, that I said, I think life is too short. I really want to pursue what I'm passionate about. And that started off as being an entertainment reporter. So I started a podcast. I produced red carpet segments for George Whipple on New York One. And then, I was having a great time. I did some radio for a year at, 2 stations in New York City. The pandemic hit. After that, I came across this case in Tennessee while I was doing entertainment, and I was just captivated by this case, and I was drawn to it. It's the case and the death of Grant Solomon. Very mysterious, very odd, very tragic and sad what happened with this family. And I did some thinking and praying, and I just decided to jump in and start a investigative podcast, which was essentially not the smartest thing to do. Being in New York, it's very difficult to investigate a case in Tennessee. I made a few trips there. It was a passion project. I did not monetize this for a very long time. I would stay up super late researching, calling, and it was a thing. And it really charged this passion inside me to help people and help families whose cases weren't getting much attention. And I kind of just went from there. And I said, I'll cover some entertainment because I think it's important to compartmentalize and sort of give yourself a break from all of the darkness. But I really find that my passion is bringing awareness to cases that aren't super popular and helping give a voice to the voiceless, as cliche as that might sound, but additionally helping these families who they are not getting help. And it's so sad. And I can only imagine how frustrating it is for them. And I think that it's important to know that content creators and podcasters and people like you and I, we do have the ability to get these names, get these victims' names, get these survivors' names out there and just bring awareness and attention to these cases that the mainstream media might not be. That was a really long answer. Sorry.
No, no, it wasn't a long answer. First of all, I want to say to you, thank you. What you started out saying, I think you have, I'm going to say it again to you, terrific delivery. I am tired of boring old people. This is my opinion. Everybody's the same. I'm sorry. We have the attention span of a gnat in today's society.
Yeah.
We need to celebrate being different, being whatever. And I just adore the way you are. And it is not easy. You're a mom, New York City. I mean, to start things, no, it's very difficult. So good for you. And you found your passion. And I really think going forward, I think, I started, Lauren, in the music business straight out of college. So that's what I did. And then I got into Broadway producing and things. I have a handle on damage control with celebrities.
Yeah.
There's a lot of crime. Now I can look back. I didn't know at the time. I was too busy working. And then, my 3 children are grown now. They're all in their 30s. But looking back in retrospect, there's so much crime in the music business, in Hollywood.
Oh, yeah.
And Broadway, I dare say. But I now can recognize it. I did not at the time. We'll get to that. I feel like we're going to have multiple segments because there's always a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Now, for a warrior listening, you are indeed a warrior. What does pop crime mean? Because a warrior might be like, I don't know. Because, people can't really think out of the box. You got to give them this or give them that. They can't give them this. Explain what pop crime means.
Yeah. And I don't want anyone to look too much into it, but it's just, it's my collab here where I cover crime and pop culture. And sometimes crime and pop culture is one and the same. Like, for example, Matthew Perry, the death of Matthew Perry and the current criminal investigation into his death. I consider that pop crime just a little bit, as opposed to, and again, this is something I just made up. This is not a real term. Same with Diddy, pop crime. Danny Masterson, pop crime. That's all celebrity arrests, celebrity, things like that. And then when you have cases out of New Hampshire, a young child, something happening to a child, I don't consider that necessarily pop culture. That's just strictly a heinous crime. So so if you go to my YouTube channel, I think PopCrime TV, that's what you're going to see. You're going to see certain celebrity interviews that I've done on a red carpet, but you're also going to see me talking to attorneys who can break down court documents, in the latest filing of XYZ trial and whatever. So it's a combination, I guess, but it's just something that I kind of made up. It's not a real term.
No, but I love it. Own it. Own it. I mean, own it. Look, I do a lot of things I don't put online or anything like that, border work, survivors of human trafficking, but I also want to mix it up too. And I also want to really focus women I like and strong voices and get more into that and really showcase and give a platform. Women can come on and talk about their businesses. So not necessarily it's a missing child, but I mean, although I primarily focus on all of those kinds of things, I think it's very important to be more well-rounded and bring everything, a little bit, of everything to the table. And you do such an amazing job on all of that, because I too, starting in the music business, there's a part of me that loves pop culture, loves music, I don't think we have celebrities anymore. We'll get into that. But let me ask you something. So while you've been doing this, do you think lately, because there's so much crime stuff going on, do you think the internet has fueled the fascination and more of the kind of like citizen investigator? Or do you just think people become so passionate about this? We're hearing more about it because, again, we do have the internet. What are some of your thoughts on that? I feel like there's a lot of crime.
No. And so it's really interesting that you bring that up. This year was the first time I ever attended CrimeCon. And people have said things about CrimeCon like, oh, I think it's so weird that people would go just to hear about crime. That seems sickening. That seems just strange. And meeting this community of people has been honestly life-changing, because it's not about that. It's and same with the Twitter community and even the YouTube community, the hashtag true crime community. They are out for justice. And when I say that, it's like, for example, somebody had tagged me in something on Twitter where somebody was pleading for the word to get out there about this missing mom out of California. Her name is Nikki Chang Saley McCain. I don't know if you've heard of this story. It's a very strange story. She was allegedly abused by her husband. There's, 3 hours he allegedly beat her. And I say allegedly because the charges were recently dropped. Unfortunately, this case was set to go to a trial with the jury, her husband, and she was obviously the star witness to testify against him because she was the one who was abused, and she disappeared. Okay. In May.
Conveniently.
Conveniently. Exactly. And so she disappeared, and the DA said, I have no choice but to drop the charges if she doesn't return. So I was tagged in this post in order to get the word out there. And I did it on Primetime Crime. We covered it on Nancy Grace. Yeah. And Nancy was incredible in her coverage of this. And my point is, the true crime community, they're not fascinated by crime. They want to help. That is why everybody does this. Someone might not be a content creator, but they might know a lot of content creators. And when they tag them, and they tagged me, I feel like I've been getting her name. I mean, I've been hashtagging it literally every single day for a week and a half since I found out about this case. So I think, to answer your question, there's no more crime than there used to be, in my opinion. I think that we're just hearing about it more because that is generally what I think people are not necessarily privy to, I guess, right? It's like you've got politics, you've got entertainment, and then you've got crime. And not everybody wants to click on that article or that video because it's so terrible. But I do think that they're putting more and more of that out there to make people aware, and so people don't live under a bubble, or in a bubble, I should say, under a bridge. But yeah, it's definitely one of those things that when you're in our world, also, that's the content we're served, I think.
Right.
But yeah,
I get it. And I'm glad you brought up, look, anything, law enforcement is just stretched these days as far as resources, man, and as I was corrected the other day, woman power, manpower, woman power. You know how it goes, Lauren, these days. And, I don't like a crime story or a missing child, as an example, will come about, and a day later, the story's gone. So we need to be voices to keep up, to keep hashtagging, or to keep tweeting about, or to keep asking the public or our followers, use the platforms, leverage the internet for good, and get it out there, because we do need eyes and ears, right? So I think it's like a tremendous thing now, because we are finding children. It's starting to percolate more with that, because everybody's always afraid to come forward, something like that. So I think it's just absolutely terrific. I have to ask you about, I do a lot of work with the tech community across the country, with Washington in particular. What do you think about, AI and deepfakes? That kind of crosses over the public, Hollywood. It's here. It's here. There was just a story of 22 middle school kids in Pennsylvania that created these TikTok accounts. And
I saw that.
They got suspended. It just said like disparaging, because I posted it. I couldn't find out exactly what the content was. They said, then I found out sort of homophobic, but I did a poll. I did a poll, and a third of the people said that's a First Amendment right. They should do what they want, the kids.
Well,
so just on all this deep fake stuff.
Well, just to comment on that story out of Pennsylvania. So I read the New York Times headline, and I was like, I don't know if it was clickbait or not. If it was clickbait, props to them, because it was so freaking dramatic. It was like,
I didn't see it. What was it?
Oh, girl, it was like so fucking, am I allowed to swear? Sorry. It was so effing stupid. It was so stupid. It was like, this is the first mass attack of its kind. I was like,
no, it's not.
Mass. I literally was like, mass. First of all, mass attack. What is this? And yeah, it sucked. Like, these kids impersonated their teachers on TikTok. And basically what they did was they took the teacher's photographs for like the Spanish teacher. She was at the beach with her kids. They took this photo of her with her kids. They put it into like a little reel on TikTok, and they were like, do you like to touch little kids? And then they would be like, see. And it was like, yeah, it was inappropriate. It was awful. But the way that they just kind of positioned this, it was like the teacher's like looking away like that in these photographs. And it was just very, very dramatic, where it's like, okay, definitely a horrible thing to have happened. Definitely an invasion of your privacy. Absolutely. But everybody knows that it wasn't you. Everybody knows that at this point that you got like, it was crazy. I just had to comment on that because the New York Times made it so freaking dramatic, and people might disagree and say, it was valid for them to call that a mass attack. I just don't really think so. But
no, that's not a mass attack from 7th and 8th graders. And all I have to do when I interrupt you and throw this in is perhaps, Lauren, because we do a lot of school things behind the scenes, as all this AI and AGI was approaching, and it's, been on the horizon for a while. It's really nothing new. Perhaps there should have been the education piece with the kids earlier, in the schools with parents. It's always the Band-Aid after the fact, but I digress. That's a whole separate show.
Well,
so it's what do you expect out of 7th and 8th graders?
I totally agree, but I didn't even realize that AI was a part of this. I was under the impression, and maybe it's because I skimmed the article, that they were taking real pictures and just making captions. And but obviously the idea of AI is terrifying. And this just, for example, the very high profile trial of Karen Reed, who was on trial for killing her boyfriend, John O'Keefe, about 2 weeks ago during deliberations, the jury was deliberating whether or not she was guilty or innocent for these 3 charges. There was a live photo that circulated of her defense attorney, who's married with a child, Alan Jackson, kind of embracing her from the back outside of a steakhouse. And when that picture surfaced, I will admit, I was like, that has to be AI. There's no way that this attorney would be that silly. It's not illegal. It's just a horrible look. And it's just not great. And somebody had beat me to this, multiple people actually, because experts, I had sent it to a cyber expert, and I was like, you need to tell me if this is a deep fake AI or manipulated at all. And people were already doing this. Come to find out, it wasn't AI. It wasn't a deep fake. It was slightly manipulated, but not to the point that the content was skewed. So it's just interesting that we see something. Oh, and then the other thing was during the debate, I had posted something about Biden, and it was a horrible stumble he had. Poor guy, but horrible stumble. The worst thing I've ever seen. I was literally recording it and posting it in real time. And I can't even tell you, on Twitter, everybody was like, AI, deep fake. And I'm like, no, are you watching the debate? This is real. So it's kind of crazy that now we have to add a layer here that we're going to get accused of posting fakes and AI. And there's so many layers to this.
And it's only beginning for the public. I do want to point out that I had just posted today, because we deal with, not to bring it down, Lauren, but we deal with a lot of education about sextortion, sex and extortion for teens, especially teen boys. And we're always advising parents after the fact, because unfortunately we have a lot of cases of kids killing themselves or harming themselves because they've sent a nude photo. Now, teachers we work with tell us the kids exchange them. I'm dating myself here. Well, I'll say Pokemon cards. That's a little more modern than baseball cards. They just exchange nude images, right? So we have to accept it. I'm not saying we like it.
Yeah.
But if somebody says, you give me $25, we've had kids kill themselves over $5, or I'm telling your mother or father, or I'm circulating this. So I have a new theory. You immediately, this is a crime. You just say it's AI. I want everybody to say it is AI. That's it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, creep. Go ahead and post my pictures, because this is AI. So I'm finding this is a bad word, kind of like the beauty in it, because we have so many kids from strangers harming themselves over these photos. So I'm saying everything's AI. So that's what I'm teaching. That's like my new thing. It's a crime.
Interesting.
You don't engage, because these kids engage with this criminal, this stranger, and they try to bargain with them, when the bottom line is you could pay them. Kids have paid them, or stolen money, or done something, to get that money, drugs, stealing from their parents if they can, household money. They still post the pictures. So okay, you creep, do not engage, call 911. And then, it's AI. Go ahead, right? Because I'm walking around New York. You're in New York. I'm seeing like women walk around that look practically naked to me anyway in this hot weather. No, so I don't think like we're like shielding. Like, but of course,
No,
this is my philosophy,
I
about all of
agree.
this.
I
It's
love
like,
that. That's interesting to say. And I did hear about, I think it was somebody in Congress, or maybe he was a representative. His son was a victim, and he had
yes,
killed himself within a matter of hours. This had unfolded, which is so terrible and so confusing. Like literally in an 8-hour period, he had sent this photo and he was being
yes.
sextorted, and then he shot
And
himself.
kids
And
kill
that's,
themselves. There's something wrong with
yeah,
that, Lauren. Like, I
yeah,
can't tell you how many parents have said to me, we had family dinner. He or she would, it's usually a boy, a teenage boy they're targeting.
yeah,
And all the servers are in Nigeria. So it's like their big business now coming out of Nigeria for this sextortion of teenage boy. But they're too embarrassed to like tell their mother or father. They rather kill themselves.
yeah,
We got a lot
yeah.
of things we have to work on. We have a lot of things we have to
Definitely.
work on. I have to jump in and ask you, like, what is your favorite? Did you have a favorite celebrity interview? You've done a lot of them. I'd like to know your favorite and your
Yeah.
worst. I don't know if you want to share. That,
Yeah, no. Let me think here. My favorite, it's interesting. I don't necessarily know if I have a favorite. There's been a few that have stuck out to me, like Alec Baldwin right now. For example, I gotta say, like he does get a bad rap sometimes, but he when I did entertainment, I was never part of a big outlet. I was always kind of my own, and I always got pushed to the back of the line. And a lot of the times it was more like, if the celebrities have time, they'll get to you because you're a
right.
small outlet, whereas Access Hollywood is going to reach all these people. And now I'm kind of like, that's not true. I bet my TikTok could reach more. Or not necessarily that, but you know what I'm saying. I feel like that's not a thing. But Alec
Mm.
Baldwin, I ended up having to like chase him and to get his attention for this film. And he was like very kind, and he was rushed. He had to do some Q&A, and he was like, oh, and he still gave me about 5 minutes, which I was absolutely shocked
Eternity.
about.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that was a long time. I was shocked. So he was really nice, and he didn't seem to have that that bite that everybody says that he has. I didn't really see that. That was a great one. Antonio Banderas was one of my favorites. I would also say he is so dreamy in real life. He is definitely, gorgeous.
Is he still married? Is he still married to Melanie? Or I think they're divorced. Are they divorced?
I actually, I
I keep
don't
up with these
know.
people.
Yeah, I don't actually know if they're still married. I
Just
remember
throwing that out. Just
a
throwing
tough,
that out there. We'll Google it later, but
no,
I don't.
yeah, we need to Google it for sure. But
I haven't heard much about him lately. Interesting.
no, and this was when he did a film, I believe in 2020. He was nominated for an Oscar where now I'm drawing a blank on it, but he played an artist, or no, he played the director that was directing him in the movie. And I totally forget what it was, but everybody should look it up because it was great. But I remember a tough phone interview was it was Steve Guttenberg. He was very nice, very kind, but it was tough. His answers were like, and I remember I asked him something like, who his actor friends were that he hung out with in Hollywood. I don't know. I was grasping here. It was tough for me. And he was just like, I don't really want to tell you that. I don't really want to share that information with you. And I'm like, that's totally cool. This needs to end. And then another tough one for me. It was Eric Roberts. That was a tough one we had a great interview on Zoom. And then I went to his movie premiere in the city because the PR company invited me. And I was silly to think that he would recognize me, I guess. But the PR company's like, oh, he loved the interview. He says to come say hi to him, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, oh, yeah. And when I said hi to him, he's like, who are you? And I was like, we just talked for like 25 minutes on Zoom. And he essentially was like, honey, I talked to like 50 people that day. Like, sorry, you think I remember you? And totally get it. But I still was like, I'm so embarrassed right now.
No, but I
then,
find that rude behavior. He's rude. I'm sorry. He's rude.
It
I'll
was
say it.
it was weird.
Even if he thought that, rude behavior. Sorry.
Yeah. And then it just got a little worse because I had like this word vomit where I'm talking to him now. I feel like an idiot, and I'm just making conversation. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I've got a place here," and I'm like, "Oh, where?" Like, just that's what you say to New Yorkers. Whereabouts you live? You asked me the same thing, and he was just like, "I'm not going to tell you where I live," and I'm like, "Bro, okay, sorry," because I get it, right? You don't know me. Why would you tell me? But I'm sitting here and I'm like, this, I just need
Okay,
to walk
sorry.
away.
I'm going to say rude, rude, rude. Somebody can say, "Oh, I live in the village. I live on the east side. I live on the west side." Like,
How many zip codes? Like, I'm not going to go searching the whole, like,
no, I don't like
borough.
him. He's a bad interview. I'm giving him a thumbs down. Let me ask you
Yeah.
something. What do you? Because I know time is of the essence. That's why we're going to have a
Yes,
couple
yes.
of different segments to this.
Mhm.
What do you think about what's going on with Harvey Weinstein right now? Do you want to weigh in at all about that? Because when I see him, I did work with him on one project. He was totally professional, but that was my experience. I
Yeah.
was not an actress looking for jobs or going to the film, around the film circuit and all that. But when I see him handcuffed to a chair in court, I'm like, geez, there should be like 5,000. This is me now, 5,000
Mhm.
other men with handcuffed to chairs. But that's me in the courtrooms.
Yeah, and I mean, so this is a tough one for me. If I guess you look up some of my stuff, I'm friendly with his attorney, Arthur Idala. Arthur has a radio show that
Yes.
I've frequented, and I think the thing is here, Lynn, you said it. You're right. There are a lot of men that should be in his position, and I think at this point, I don't know what to think. I believe the women. I absolutely believe them, but I think what's happening now and what we're seeing is Arthur and his team simply upholding his constitutional rights here in terms of, like, no one's necessarily saying this didn't happen. What they're saying is what you did in the courtroom, or what the state did in the courtroom, and what the judge allowed should not have been the case. They shouldn't have had all of these extra witnesses. And now they're trying to rectify that. And they're also coming at it from a point where I guess Harvey's health is very much failing. And I saw something the other day, and I had said something to Arthur, and I just said, "Do you think you're going to get the public sympathy here?" And he's like, "I don't want the public sympathy." He kind of put me in my place a little bit. And he's like, "This is just facts. Harvey's health is failing. He's literally doing very, very poorly due to the conditions, due to the food, whatever. And, we just got to get things sped up here for that reason." And so I think it's just I don't know. It's tough.
It's a weird case. And I just want to say, I'm not condoning his behavior. I'm not doubting. It's always believe a victim. We always believe in that. But just
Yes.
something about, I guess, because of your background, my background, there should be a lot of people handcuffed to chairs in courtrooms. And I'm like, why him? But we'll leave that for another show.
Yeah.
It just doesn't sit right with me.
Mhm.
PopCrime.tv is the place to be. Final words. Leave us with something before I have to let you go, even though I don't want to let you go.
Oh my gosh. Oh no, you're so sweet. I just really appreciate it. And I would just love for people to tune into my new show, Primetime Crime, on YouTube, where I have a co-host that's a former ADA out of Pennsylvania. He's awesome. We're going to be moving that show to a live show every Wednesday. I'll be making an announcement. But yeah, I would just love for people to tune in there.
Good. I just subscribed to the YouTube channel for that this
Great.
morning.
Thank
Listen,
you.
you are the best. We are going to have to continue this. You bring facts, you bring energy.
Thank
I
you.
like the word dissection, like, take
Mhm.
things apart. We need more time to look at, there's so much going on. I like that you also showcase these cases of just
Yeah.
disappear kind of thing, and
Yeah.
stay on top of them, and hashtag. We need the public always to help with all of this. So thank you for using all your platforms. I'll have everything again, Lauren, in the body of the video for all this. I want to thank you for jumping on and tech problems with me and being my
You're
fellow
great.
New Yorker. We are going to do this again. Everybody, to follow Lauren Conlin. We're going to have everything again in the body of the video. I want to say to you, be well and stay safe, because we're crime and pop. Who knows what could happen to us?
So true. Thank you, Lynn.
Let's speak again soon. But, I would just want to tell you, you are truly a warrior, and we will indeed speak again soon.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you, Lynn, so much. Honestly, thank you.
Thank you, Lauren.